Can send us. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever your time, wherever you are, uh, to this very special show on JKTV. It's organized mainly by Let Kashmiris Decide. This is a very recently formed group. This group actually was formed by Claire Bidwell soon after the August 5th, 2019, when the BJP government of India um, actually just basically using their democratic mandate given by Indian voters to bypass all the legalities, all the international obligations. They just sent more troops in already one of the most militarized zone in the world, that is Kashmir. They sent more troops there, and they locked down every household and disconnected all the communication means. And they declared that Kashmir is no longer a autonomous state. Kashmir is a union territory of India, and so all basically rights were taken away just like that. And uh, to kind of prevent any resistance, they then cut off the communication and locked people inside their homes, and that situation still prevails. And obviously, recently the corona lockdown gave them more sort of justification to keep people in. And uh, although gradually then some of the communication was restored and a very weak internet connectivity is also available, but people are under constant suppression and repression from the occupying forces in that part of Kashmir. So, in reaction to that, one woman who is our guest here, Claire Bedwell, she was before that she was on her normal trip in India, where she met a Kashmiri shopkeeper, and they stayed in touch because she bought some stuff from him. And when she asked, but because he told me, that's why I'm giving this background. Um, and when she asked him how is his family, and he said, I don't know. So what do you mean? So I can't communicate with them because all communication is cut off. So why? And this is, when they gave the reason, and she couldn't understand why, how it can happen in this day and age. And when she did some research and she found out that, yeah, that this is happening, and then she started this idea that we should do something about that. So this was a reaction from one individual who then um, connected so many people and brought them together um, in Let Kashmir Decide group, which is I think thousands of members now. And so today basically is the launch of that group's first major activity, and that is uh, having tea in solidarity. So I welcome all my guests first here, and then we will obviously ask Claire more uh, about the event and everything. So we have with us Janab Lord Nazir Ahmed Sahab, Lord of Rotherham, is a Lord member of House of Lord, British House of Lord, and we have Paul Bristow, who is a member of British Parliament, and he is is a parliament member. And then we have Sajid Tarar, who is U.S. President Trump's advisor, and we have obviously Claire Bidwell, and we have Chaudhry Waqas Akram. He's a media coordinator for Let Kashmiri Decide. And where did he gone? Okay. So welcome everybody, and we have Karen and Makala. who are representative for Let Kashmiri Decide from Toronto. So everybody, welcome to the show, please. And I am really sorry for a little delay in starting and a very silent start. But I hope that we will make up for that in the coming time. And firstly, I would like to ask um, uh, Lord Nazir Ahmed um, that given the situation in Indian occupied Kashmir, and given the fact that historically Britain been very outspoken against the human rights violations, and there had been a tendency of linking trade with the human rights records. Why is not happening that now in case of India? What India has done in Kashmir recently, but obviously what they are doing in last 30 years since this popular uprising was erupted in 1980s.
You're on mute, Lord Nazir.
I'm not on mute now, I hope.
Yeah, you're
Thank
No,
you
not.
you're
very
not.
You're
much
not.
for thank you very much for organizing this conference. I have shared a platform with Sajid Tadar Saab last week from the same organization, and I'm delighted to be here because I think it's very important that we let the Kashmiris decide, let them speak. And this campaign that they are running with thousands of members, it's very important for to have this neutral kind of view from everyone. So, Shamas, so your question is very important because why is the international community silent? And my own view is that first, the international community did not understand what was happening. Because if you go back to 5th of August, in fact, a week before 5th of August, in July, the governor of, or even 2 weeks before, when the BJP fascist government actually suspended the local legislative assembly and put everyone under observation. They then the governor then held a press conference, a dramatic press conference in Srinagar, and they also did one in Delhi, where they said that there's an imminent threat of terrorist attack on the yatris, the Hindu pilgrims who had gone to Kashmir, and they need to come back. I need to remind people because, very rarely you get big states like India or, any state telling lies, clear lies, just to divert the attention from what they were doing. And once they'd said that there was a imminent threat of terrorism, they could send in 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 troops, and the world will remain silent. And this is exactly what happened, Shamsab. If you recall, in end of July, they sent in 10,000. Then they said, oh no, the threat is more. And then they sent in another 20,000. And so 50,000 troops gathered in the valley. Already there were like 800, 850,000 soldiers in Kashmir, and these were extra troops to make sure that nobody protests against the abrogation of 370 and also 35A. So when the international community was under impression that there was some sort of terrorist threat, and you know how Western world, especially after 9/11 and what happened 7/7, etc., how the Western world is afraid of terrorism and they really don't want to take any risks. Everybody went silent. Nobody questioned why these troops were going in, why the internet, which you mentioned, was suspended, why communications. In fact, 10 to 15,000 young men were taken out of Kashmir and they were put in jails inside India. And similarly, all the politicians, all the academics, and or even the former chief ministers of Indian occupied Kashmir were put behind bars. That means also those, this Mahbuba Mufti type people who are also coalition partners with BJP, they were put in prison as well. And you know the rest of the story. So I think that was one issue. The second one, because the world has been too busy with its own problems. Now there are American elections, then you have their own internal fighting, and then Corona came in. And because of Corona, sadly, we've lost 38,000 people, 100,000 in America. The world is just in a complete mess with the coronavirus. And there's also tension between the superpower and the emerging superpowers as well. Uh, I honestly think that those of us who keep relying on the United Nations resolutions and keep saying that United Nations will do something, they will not, because the UN is too weak. And the only body, I know that my friend and Tarar Saab's friend, Mr. Imran Khan, when he makes a speech, he says that I spoke in the General Assembly. The General Assembly is just a talking shop. And the Security Council that has power does not want to rock the boat because there are bigger things happening in the background. Because what you see now is this tension, economic sort of struggle between China and the United States, and that's why you see the language changing. But there also power shift, whether it is in the Middle East, Russia playing part in Syria, which America has just run away, whether it is in the Korean Peninsula, etc., etc. So there are complications. I'm not making excuses for the international community. They should, but they will not. And Britain and France and the European countries have very clearly said that their economic interest is much more important than human rights and historic agreements and historic promises. So I think we should not rely too much on that. What we need to do is just, I know I've been on a little longer, but I just want to finish this. Look, we know that the Modi government has been working with Netanyahu. Netanyahu has been advising Indian government on the policy of Kashmir because there are similarities. And so what they are trying to do, similar to what happened in West Bank and also with the Palestinians, is that you show the threat of terrorism, you blow up their houses, you terrorize the whole community. So even if you knock down their houses, you bring in other people to settle. This is with the new law which allows with 35A, abrogation of 35A, those who served in the Indian Army and Indian Civil Service, that they could get citizenship and also drive out the local communities, terrorize them. Just what you saw last week, which Chaudhry Sajid Tarar Saab and myself, we were discussing in relation to the demolition of 15 houses or more and killing a lot of young people. It is terrorizing them so they can be driven out of the valley, driven out of Indian occupied Kashmir, bring in the Brahmins and
Okay.
the
Yeah,
RSS.
but obviously a lot is happening there, but what can be done? You have kind of outlined that nobody is going to do anything. It seems like you are saying that nobody can do anything and they can continue with it.
Well, they are doing. Unfortunately, at the moment, nobody is doing. We need to be preparing. This is the whole reason of your conference, is to raise this awareness, and that's why I pay tribute to Claire and her colleagues for raising the awareness, getting this massive support from the masses. Look, when I was a young man and I supported Nelson Mandela, there was a big movement around the world where people, anti-apartheid movement around the world, not only the African countries, but young people in colleges, schools, trade union movements, the ordinary people. It's good to see ordinary people, whether they are from Canada, from Britain, or from rest of the world. We need to
Okay.
get their support to pressurize their governments.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's ask the same question from Paul Bristow, who's a member of British Parliament. That what is British government doing about this to stop this blatant human rights violation happening in the Indian occupied Kashmir?
Well, thank you very much for having me on your show. It's a great honour to be here. I guess the first thing I would say is let's start with the bad news. I think the bad news is the British government official view is that this is a bilateral issue between Pakistan and Kashmir. And the Labour Party front bench, they've now adopted a very similar view. In fact, the last election, the Labour Party had a slightly different view on Kashmir. But one of the first acts of the new Labour Party leader, Keir Starmer, was to go back to that position, that this is a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. And I'm afraid, while the rest of the world sees this as a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan, then I'm afraid I would agree with the Lord Ahmed that very little is going to happen, because there'll be no progress. And while that happens, Kashmir bleeds. Kashmir does not have their say. Lots and lots of people, young people in Kashmir will live, young and old people will live with the lockdown. But let's start with the positive, because the last election changed, I think, the viewpoints fundamentally of several of my colleagues. There's been a few of these conferences, a few of these get-togethers, and for the first time we've seen real cross-party alignment on this issue. There are now scores of MPs of all parties, from the Labour Party, the Conservative Party, my party, and even the Scottish Nationalists Party. They have a number of MPs from there have shown solidarity with the people of Kashmir. So that optimism, that positivity, that this issue is getting more traction in the UK Parliament is something we can be very, very positive with. And do you know something? What has actually happened is that the Kashmiri diaspora here in the UK has started to flex their muscles. And that's why so many MPs have become particularly interested in Peterborough. My constituency, for example, has 20,000 Muslims living in Peterborough. I was always very sympathetic to the poor people of Kashmir, simply because Peterborough is my city and I grew up living next to Kashmiri people. I went to school with Kashmiri people. My co-workers were Kashmiris. So I always understood that this was a very serious issue. And I think that growing realization that this part of the world has been forgotten is really gaining traction in the UK Parliament. I also think what's gaining traction in the UK Parliament is that Britain has a historic role in this, and that understanding that Britain, as the former colonial power in South Asia, has a responsibility to clear up, well, quite frankly, the mess it left behind there in regards to Kashmir. And that growing realization, I think, does give us a moral duty in order to speak out on this issue. Just the other thing I will say is that I think how we approach this is really important, and how we approach the issue of Kashmir is really important. We can never. There's often a temptation sometimes, I think, by those who are either pro the Indian position or have sympathy with the position that I take, is to try and pitch this as a Muslim versus Hindu issue. That cannot happen. And I think if we do that, I think that would be a road to disaster for us. This has to be an issue of basic human rights, because what's going on in Kashmir, it's not just about detention. It's not just about lockdown. This is about murder. And forgive me for saying this, perhaps during the day when anyone can be watching, but this is about murder. This is about rape. And these basic human rights violations, this murder, this rape, cannot stand. So we need to ensure that broadcast to the people, and that awareness needs to develop. But secondly, I also tweeted today about simple self-determination and the right to democracy. In my country, here in the UK, we've had 2 referendums recently, one on Scottish independence, which they voted no, which I was very pleased about, and we had one where Britain voted to leave the European Union. Of course, I'm very pleased about that too. But we had our say, and if the results had gone the other way, then that's a democratic view. So also, Britain are in international disputes with Spain over Gibraltar and with the Falkland Islands over Argentina. And the position of the British government is that no decisions on the future of these overseas territories will be made without consulting the people of those territories. So it's very much a tripartite arrangement. So Britain and the people of Gibraltar and the people of Falkland Islands are determined on these issues, and that's why their self-determination.
Sorry to cut you off, Paul Bristow. Is there any practical actions British government you suggest to British government or the Parliament which they should be basically working for? What practical step they should be taking for to put pressure on Indian government that they then that they consider all these things which you have said?
Well, when I make the case to the Foreign Secretary, I make it in the terms that I've just made to you. I make it on the terms of this being a self-determination. And I'm saying that in one hand, we're saying to the Argentinian government and the Spanish government, we will not make a decision about the future of those territories without consulting the people of those territories. Why is Kashmir any different? Why aren't the views of the people of Kashmir and Jammu, occupied Kashmir and Jammu, not given an equal say to those of India and Pakistan? And that's completely wrong. Now, what will I be doing in the UK Parliament? Well, there is this growing optimism, as I say, that I have, because so many people now are much more aware of the issue, because, quite frankly, of the Kashmiri diaspora. But we need to break beyond the views of the Kashmiri diaspora and make sure the British government and politicians from all sides don't just see this as just some little disagreement between India and Pakistan on the other side of the world, because after all, these 2 powers are nuclear powers. Let's not forget that. If there is going to be a future conflict in the world, and fingers crossed there isn't, the last place it needs to be is on the mountains of Kashmir, because of the threat to all of us in this world, because it's a nuclear world. So what I'll be doing is I'll be making these points very clear in Parliament, in debate. I will continue to lobby the Foreign Secretary. But do you know something? I'll also do it with my colleagues from the Labour Party. It can't just be a one-party issue. We all have to work together. And the thing I will say to my colleagues, my former parliamentarians, like Lord Ahmed outlined earlier, we need to take this out broader than just the Kashmiri diaspora and make this a issue of human rights and self-determination. There are other examples around the world where these issues are highlighted, perhaps disproportionately sometimes, on their impact on the numbers of people that it impacts. But here in Kashmir, there are millions of people who are being displaced. And so I am very willing to, in my position as the MP for Peterborough and soon to be the chair of the Conservative Friends of Kashmir, to take this issue further than just the city of Peterborough, further than Parliament, and speak to gatherings across the UK to try and generate support for this issue. And do you know something? It can't just sometimes say, I'm a white English politician, as you can see. And I think sometimes we need more faces like mine talking about this.
Thank you very much, Paul Bristow. And the next, let's go to Sajid Tharar, because he advises somebody who is considered to be perhaps the most powerful person in the world, or powerful leader in the world. Mike Pompo's statement said that a strong stand will be taken against countries suspending communications and internet services. What is President Trump's administration position on what India is doing? India is doing exactly that in Indian occupied side of Kashmir. So what is the USA government's position on that?
This platform, I'm highly appreciative. I'm highly obliged that you just went there once and you felt the pain. And then secondly, Lord Nazir, who I have said earlier, who has played the role of being a mentor to many like myself in our life, to come to the other countries and play a role in politics. I'm appreciative of Miss Karen and Miss Michelle from Canada. I'm appreciative to the MP Bristol that you are coming to this platform and talking about it. But today, very first thing, I want Kashmiris to forgive me. I was born, raised in a country. I was born, raised in Pakistan, where from the day first I have been known that what is happening in Kashmir. I have failed them. The whole world has failed them. It's a 9 months and 15 days in 21st century. Gentlemen, I'm talking about 21st century. They are living in such a barbarian and such a cruel situations for 9 months and 15 days. All of us, we have failed. Each time I drink a glass of water, a clean water, each time I eat the warm meal and I think about them, they are human. I failed them as a human. I failed them as a Muslim. I failed them as a Pakistani. I failed them as an American. I'm embarrassed and I'm asking forgiveness from them. Please forgive me that I failed you. And second thing I wanted to tell you as an American, all these bodies earlier, even than the Lord Nazir has said, United Nations, IMF, the World Bank. I request people to read their history first of all. They go for their own interest. They don't go for the humanitarian issues or something. They have failed. President Trump has said several times they have failed, and we are the only one Americans. Those are financially supporting them, and they are even then failing Americans. So depending on their resolutions, it's not going to do anything. We have seen 72 years they have failed. Today, last time I said on that segment, the Kashmiris, they are fighting their own war, and they are fighting well. And frankly speaking, today, regardless, Congress is not going to do anything. The UK parliamentarian, nothing, because India is so strong financially, they can buy all of this influence. They have been spending billions and billions of dollars in America to buy the American influence on the issue of Kashmir. They have been spending billions of dollars. Look at the Howdy Modi. Look at the Namaste Donald Trump. Look at the situation. The sole purpose was.
So what is USA government's position on what you have advised to Mr. Trump?
I'm coming there.
Yeah, please.
Here, at the same time, I am a lawyer. I can write an essay on it, how to twist every single thing. But here, at this morning, I won't do that. It's part of my training to twist everything as a lawyer, but I won't do that. I will speak. I'm speaking from my heart. What is happening? I'm a political scientist. All the traditional politicians, they have failed people. Donald Trump is a reaction of that. And before he became a president, he offered arbitration in 2016 to resolve the Kashmir issue. Think about it. He has offered arbitration at least more than 15 times. People always say that doesn't mean nothing. No. When the president of the free world, when the president of the sole superpower on the planet, when he offers arbitration, he brings that issue on the media. He tells people that there is an issue and I'm willing to resolve it. And here, at the same time, that you are talking about the Pompeo and the other things, the two or three recent situations. First of all, when last time Mr. Jaishankar was here in the State Department, right after meeting Mr. Pompeo, he's supposed to meet the congressman, American congressman, and he canceled the meeting because all of them, they were asking him, they were planning to ask him questions regarding the humanitarian situation in Kashmir. That's very first thing. Second thing is this: 2 weeks ago, the United Commission on the Freedom of International is byproduct of the State Department. They have put Indians list on the countries of concern. So the situation is there, but at the same time, like I told you, India is a might in that region, financial might in that region. They buy everything. And today, frankly speaking, forget about what the Trump or Pompeo is going to do. The Muslim countries not standing with you. They are calling Modi to their countries and giving them highest possible awards. OIC has invited them. Forget about the rest of them. Even then, the Muslims are not standing on a Kashmir issue. Not a single statement from Saudi Arabia, not a single statement from other Muslim countries. Like I told you, we have abandoned, and all of us, we are guilty of it, frankly speaking. People are
So,
making
so
people,
again, it's the economic interest over the human rights in a for Muslim or non-Muslims.
yeah, exactly. And but the thing is this: today we are here, and only situation again, like I wanted to second with Lord Nazir, awareness, awareness. I have been advocating here, telling all the people, writing their congressmen, what is the situation in Kashmir? What is the 2G? They are. There's no internet. There's only 2G. There are 9 months and 15 days. Tell your legislators to please, for God's sake, on a humanitarian levels, vote on the based on humanitarian level instead of versus as a Democrat, Republican, Labour Party or Conservative Party. But at the same time, we need to feel the guilt of it. We need to feel the pain of it before we do anything else. And frankly speaking, Claire, I salute you that you went there once and you have come up to the idea of this, putting us together. I have been living under this thing since, I'm not 72 years old, but this nightmare is 72 years old, and we are failing. And I'm guilty, frankly speaking. It's a Saturday morning, and I'm very guilty about it. I have done many things. I have risen the voice of it. Last time, the Raja Farooq Haider, who's a Prime Minister of Azad Kashmir, he was here. I went along with them to Dallas, and I spoke there. And his family is still living in a Kashmir, and I know the pain. Frankly speaking, I always believe in before you do anything, put your feet into the shoes of those people. Those are suffering since years. And I tell you one thing. Last time, even then, I said to Lord Nazir, who's very dear to me, who's very respectful for myself, the reason we will definitely, because of what is going on in 21st century in India, I had a high regards from India. I had a lot of friends from India. I have gone to India many times with the different delegations, with the trade delegations. But what is happening in India in these days, in 21st century, Kashmir's, not only Kashmir's freedom. Look at this today. India is surrounded by Nepal, by Bangladesh, by China, by Pakistan. And what is Modi's getting out of it? You cannot do this, whatever that Hitler did about, the 70 some years ago. You cannot do this today. People have internet. Everybody has a weapon in his hand. And what is that weapon? Is a smartphone. So today you cannot hostage the 12 million people in Kashmir. And I'm telling you, I can see the freedom of Kashmir with my eyes. And I told Lord Nazir, my dear friend, that the day is very soon that we will all go to Kashmir at the Lal Chowk and we'll celebrate the freedom of them people.
Let's hope that happens soon. And let me bring Waqas Akram, who is here in place of Tariq Farooq, the Deputy Prime Minister of Pakistani administered Kashmir. And because Mr. Deputy Prime Minister couldn't make it, so Waqas is here to speak on his behalf that what Azad Kashmir government is able to do. Can they do anything about this situation? और इखलाक will speak in Urdu. इखलाक जी क्या करेगी आजाद कश्मीर गवर्नमेंट? क्या वो कुछ करने के काबिल हैं?
Can I please add one thing to Tarar Saab, what he said?
Can you wait now after Ikhlas, please? Waqas.
Okay.
Because his connection is now very strong. So I might lose him. Go on, Waqas.
Yeah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much, Shamsab, for giving me a time to express my views about Kashmir. And first of all, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Paul, Mr. Sadi Tarar, and also Lord Nazir Ahmed and all other respectable guests who are joining us in this show and showing solidarity with oppressed Kashmiri nation. So all your JKTV team is also, we also, our Let Kashmir Decide, all of our team is especially want to thank you to JKTV, the voice of the voiceless. You're really a voice of the voiceless, and we all are really thankful to you. So as you know, Mr. Shams, that this Kashmir issue is going on from last 70 years, and Kashmiri people are suffering from Indian oppression, brutal human rights violation inside Indian occupied Kashmir. And from this last 70 years, the United Nations, and as the previous guest just spoke, that all big powers, they are just looking with the eyes of the interest, economic interest, and
Wakash, we
Hmm.
have all. I think all people said that, and who is not doing what. But can you talk about
Yeah, so
Azad Kashmir
I'm
government? What they can do, or what they are doing, or what they are able or capable of doing?
Yeah, actually, like I can mostly I can speak at the behalf of my campaign, but in reference to the Azad Kashmir government, I mean, they're trying their best in their, like, I mean, capacity. They are trying to push this Kashmir cause. So, but the thing is, let Kashmir decide campaign. What when the ordinary people of the Kashmir, when we saw then that these great powers, or like you can see the governments of I mean, you can say the superpower or the others, if these governments are not listening, or they are just looking with the eyes of the economic interest in this geopolitical structure, then we, the ordinary people, we decided the clear he is an ordinary I mean, he's a primary school teacher in Scotland, and also like me, I'm the student of the international relations. I'm doing masters in that. So we, the ordinary people of the world, we think that if governments are not doing anything, if United Nations is like just keeping their eyes closed, so we can make a difference. So we decided that we should raise the voice of the Kashmiri people. Okay, and we will like take it to the whole world, and we will show the world that what is going on inside the Indian occupied Kashmir. So, like, but still, like, we have a hope, like in reference to the United Nations, that one of our guests just spoke that United Nations, I mean, they have a very you can say the weak role in this, I mean, current era, and they have done nothing on Kashmir yet. Just like they just passed the resolutions and they just closed their eyes. So the thing is, I mean, but we are still hopeful that this world will see the things with the eyes of the humanity, not with the eyes of the economic interest. Because look, whatever is how I mean, what is happening there inside Indian occupied Kashmir, the Kashmiri people and the Indian security forces, they are killing little children, they are like destroying their homes, there are brutal human right violations, and there is a lot going on there. And look at the recent domicile act that they bring, and this domicile act that the Indian government had passed, this is the conspiracy to change the demography of Kashmiri of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, and so the Kashmiri people, we totally reject this, and all these things that India has done unilaterally. Okay, and we are requesting the world community to stand with us, to stand for the human. I mean, just to speak up for the human rights, and please speak up for the right of the self determination that United Nations promised to the Kashmiri people.
Okay, thank
So
you.
as the Mr. Yeah,
Thank you, Wakash.
yeah,
Thank you very
thank.
much for your
Mhm. Thank
contribution.
you.
And Wakash is
You're welcome.
Secretary from Azad Kashmir. So I will keep you in lobby just in case if we need you again, if you stay connected. And
Yes, sure.
so
Thank you.
Lord Ahmed, you were going to add something to what Mr. Sajid Sarar said.
Sayed Tarsab is a very experienced political activist, not only advisor to the President of United States, but also an influential gentleman in Washington, D.C. and Houston. He made very good point in relation to India being surrounded by these different countries. But I just wanted to share it with you and remind you. I know you are aware that India is already has started a war with China, and the Chinese troops have entered north of Kashmir. India has already started a struggle with Nepal, with wanting to redraw the map again and take some parts of Nepal. India is at war with Bangladesh because of the Citizens Amendment Act, where they want to throw out so many people from India, and also having difficulties. And with Pakistan, that on daily basis there's occurrence where there are helicopters coming in or drones coming into Pakistan and also Azad Kashmir. So my point was that, just adding on to my very good friend Sajid Tarar Saab, that he's absolutely right to mention India is surrounded by those, but India is making enemies of everyone. Or rather, I should not say India, I should say BJP fascist Hindutva regime, because majority, many Indians are very good people, but this Hindutva philosophy, the RSS BJP philosophy, is that they only win elections by having wars and persecuting minorities and Kashmiris. And I think some of the things that we were talking about, Tar Sab said the same, and I and others
Okay.
have said same.
Okay.
That
Yeah. Yeah. Please,
we
please,
need
please
to go to
conclude
the
so we
masses.
engage some people who are left out in this show. Please. Yeah. Go on.
Oh,
Yeah. You can conclude.
okay, my conclusion is that that when we are taking this campaign to the masses, and when you're talking to the masses, not only you talk about Kashmir, but what is happening to minorities, whether they are Dalits, whether they are Christians, they are Sikhs, and other minorities in India, what they've been doing, lynching them, burning their houses, burning their places of worship, and what is happening in Kashmir, all has
We
to be
need to
linked
take
in.
it. It has to be inclusive and broader. Yeah, brilliant. And let me bring Karen and Makala from Toronto. They are a representative of Let Kashmiri Decide group there. Makala, how did you get involved? Both of you, one after other. How did you get involved in this campaign?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're very much working for justice for Palestine, holding our own Canadian government accountable. And really, I mean, the only reason that we would come is that we would come remembering the historic context of Canada, just as MP Bristol said, we too are, we're a colonial nation, and we really got our fingers right in the original forming of the right for self-determination for the Kashmiri people. It was our representative, who was the president at the United Nations Security Council in 1948, General McNaughton, who was really instrumental in Resolution 47. And so from that perspective, I mean, we too are on settler land. We are settlers here on Indigenous land. And so we come from that perspective, both within Palestine and for Kashmir. We come more recently to the struggles and understanding of the people of Kashmir, and Michaela, who is my daughter, and I, along with several other people, were very honored to be able to go on a human rights delegation in December of this year to Azad, Jammu Kashmir, and to see how independent the government is, to see how it's working with its own judiciary, to actually sit in the legislature, to actually meet with the different parties as well, and to be able to go to the line of control and into several of the what you could call refugee camps, but we will call them camps for displaced people, because of course we would not want to say that they're refugees, because they have every right of return. So maybe I'll turn to Michaela just to reference our time there.
We come from the broader Canadian civil society. Of course, we stood with Palestine for a long time, and as soon as we learned about Kashmir and the Kashmiri cause and the human rights violations and the breaking of international law, specifically the Fourth Geneva Convention, we just couldn't, you can't support Palestine and not support Kashmir, right? Because they're one and the same. They're neo-settler colonial projects, right? Modi and Netanyahu are literally one and the same.
So how is the awareness like where you are about Kashmir? I mean, how people know about it,
Yeah. So our role very much from civil society, and we're honored as civil society to be amongst the group today here. I mean, our role is really to speak to our government as well as to get the issue out in the broader context. So after August 5th, yes, there were people on the street. There were thousands of people on the street here in Canada. And yes, we've written thousands. There were 10,000 letters, which, I mean, we're a fairly small country, that were written to our government just as the federal election was happening. We've got 2 petitions currently in our government, and we are working towards and have agreement that there would be a hearing with the at least to review that there would be a hearing with the Human Rights Subcommittee of the Standing Foreign Affairs Committee. So those are the kinds of things that we're trying to do from holding accountability. But I mean, the real accountability does come down to which nation would take India to the International Criminal Court, and that, I mean, I think is the elephant in the room that we're not able to speak to, because some nation does need to stand up and be able to do that. Learn from the Palestinian example. Here in Canada, we created a situation where Venezuela, which would not be a country you would be taking to the ICC, was taken to the ICC in literally about a year's amount of work to do that, as Canada, a third party, playing a key role. So not for the reasons we would want, but those are the same kinds of tactics. If we could work with the OIC countries, as you said, the OIC countries, the Arab world stepping up to play on those things. For civil society, I think BDS is the other thing, and it's not just boycotting things from India, it's doing the heavy lifting to be able to do the work, to look at the companies that are complicit in war crimes, in the military occupation, in the war crimes, and now in the illegal settlement as the domicile law is put into practice in hyperdrive, and to be able to put that back within our own legal frameworks in our own countries. In Canada, we have an act that allows for sanctioning of countries that violate human rights. So that takes us beyond.
And we use that on countries who, maybe you shouldn't, right? Like there's quite a double standard here in Canada in terms of the Special Economic Measures Act, right? Like countries like Iran and Syria, which I'm not dismissing the human rights violations, but often countries that are Muslim are scapegoated and, put under economic distress, whereas countries like Israel and India, you would never see them on the list. So to do that heavy lifting as civil society to get those countries,
yeah. So the awareness is step by step, but it does need mass movement, but it also needs being able to work within our own legal frameworks, work within our own domestic legislation, as well as the accountability at an international level. We have a huge campaign going on right now with the United Nations.
We're coming near to the end of the show, so sorry, I have to stop you there. And I give chance to Paul Bristow, Lord Hammond, and Sajid Tarar to say to basically conclude the show. And Claire, I know she's there, but she'll be here throughout the show, so we can bring her in at the end, to just conclude it. So
yeah,
Paul
you're not
Bristow,
concluding the show. You're concluding the first session.
Yeah. So is there Paul, is there anything on British Parliament agenda for the coming days? Has anything planned to do about Kashmir, or are you planning to do something about it inside the Parliament so that the pressure continues?
Yes, my colleagues and I will be setting up a backbench business debates, and again that will be cross-party. It won't just be Conservative MPs, it will be MPs from the Labour Party and from the Scottish Nationalist Party and maybe the Liberal Democrats too, where we can talk about this. I myself personally will be encouraging all sorts of my colleagues to participate in that debate, to show solidarity with the people from Kashmir and also their own constituents from the Kashmiri diaspora. But I repeat, I think the biggest weapon we have in our armoury here in the UK is to ask that the people of Kashmir are treated in exactly the same way we would expect anybody else to be treated from this country. We respected our referendums here in this country, and we gave our people a say. And we also include the people of our overseas territories in any sort of negotiation about their future. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. What is good for the people of this country is good for the people of Kashmir. That's our biggest weapon in our armoury. And that is how I hope I will be persuading, along with using the Kashmiri diaspora and wider awareness, to change attitudes within the government and within other political parties.
Thank you, Paul Bristow, MP for Peterborough. And Lord Hammond, with your House of Lord hat on, is anything planned within the House for coming days? Or I think you are also part of the Kashmir, all-party Kashmir group as well. So any activities are planned? Any real action?
The all-party parliamentary group has been active, but because of coronavirus and the situation in Parliament. They've been doing conferences, online conferences, and also consultation with the leader of the Labour Party. I think that once the House resumes, then there will be more activities, but I don't see much change at the moment. There are lots of online conferences on this type that you are doing, StreamYard or Zoom or many other platforms. People in Australia have invited me to a conference next week. There are people from all over. I was speaking with some Russian friends yesterday. So, this is about taking the message to the masses. And until we get parliaments and governments back in full form, we have to work in the communities and keep the light going. So we are exposing the fascist Hindutva government, but also gaining support for the Kashmir and also making
Thank you.
aware to
Thank you.
other people.
Thank you very much, Lord Nazir Ahmad. And now, finally, Sajid Tarar Sahab, before I go to Claire, Sajid Tarar, what action, what practical steps you think, people in USA, or particularly the government, people who are part of the government, or, the democratic setup, what action you think, people can pressurize them to take, or, people can demand or ask them to take? Is in mute, yeah. I think you have muted your mic, Sajid.
I got it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we are much educated. Pakistanis and Kashmiris now we are much educated. We have been telling our legislators what's going on in Kashmir. I have been myself on different fronts, been educating our lawmakers, legislators, what's going on in Kashmir. And second thing I wanted to say, what is in my mind, and I don't have a time yet, but I wanted to take the government of United Kingdom. I wanted to take them to the International Court of Justice on the basis of division of India and Pakistan and Kashmir. The way the Mr. Radcliffe and his expertise, the way he divided the line in such a haste and such a poorly manners. I wanted to take the government of United Kingdom to International Court of Justice to see what they have done to the region of the division. And I'm going to do it. And second thing I wanted to say, the Kashmir only need awareness and support, moral support of the people those are suffering there, and we are doing it. I have made a form where and which I continuously distribute among the general masses. And what the form, I would love to send it to you, where all you have to do is just fill up your name and then write it down your address, go on Google and find who's your congressman and senator, and find out that address and just mail it to them. And in that form, it gives you, it educates these legislators what is happening in Kashmir, what has been violated in Kashmir, what were those fundamental rights, what is the historical background of Kashmir. I have done that and I have been successfully doing it, which has done a huge impact. And not only this, I have requested President during the General Assembly in the United Nations twice, because I don't see him on a daily basis. I run into him on different occasions, and I have requested, please do something for the people of Kashmir there and see their suffering. And I'm going to keep on doing. I'm going to keep on doing. I promise you that I feel like I'm a Kashmiri and I'm going to stand for them.
Okay, that's very passionate sport, and hopefully it will make difference. And Claire, at the end of this first session, what do you have to say? Because I know you are with us throughout the day. So what you have to say, in presence of these guests, because they will be leaving soon.
Well, I feel quite emotional, actually, to be honest, because this is part of you know, a journey for me to raise awareness by a Solidarity event, which was meant to be on the ground in Azad, but here we are online, and to have such expert, knowledgeable voices from all around the world with plans, you know, total solidarity with Kashmir, plans to raise awareness, which was all we were trying to do, and solutions as well. I very much, like Sajid Tarar said, do feel that the Great British government left Kashmir in the hands of almost like two step parents and haven't gone back to solve that. So this is the first time hearing about taking the UK government to the courts of justice, but anything that can free Kashmir, raise awareness, raise voice is fantastic. So I'm honoured. Thank you to Lord Nazir, to Paul Bristow, and to Sajid Tarar, and Karen and Michaela and Rakas for joining us in this first session. I think they've done an amazing job and I'm very grateful. And you, of course, Shams. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. And I like that term step parents. And unfortunately, you know, these step parents are bad because they are good at domestic violence. They are involved in domestic violence for the last 72 years. So I think that is a really sad aspect of it. But thank you very much, everybody, for your time and contribution. And I am sorry again that our start was not very smooth, but I hope it went well, and it will carry on, you know, smooth in next 2 hours. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here. And let us bring our more guests now. And thank you, Sajid Tarar Saab. Thank you, Lord Nazir Saab. Thank you, Karen and Makala. And Claire is with us in the lobby. You will stay, and let me bring the other guests up now. And we have in lobby, and thank you very much, Vakas Akram. Sorry, I couldn't bring up you up to the main screen in the later half of the show, but I'm sure that whatever you said is brilliant. And now we have MP Afzal Khan Saab with us from his isolation wherever he is. And I think he's in Manchester. Yes, I did show with him. Yes, and he's having his tea. Yes, and we have Sardar Anwar with us from Dubai, and we have Asana Marthea from USA. And she is having her tea. And of course, we have Claire with us as well. And let's hope that I don't know who else is going to join, but whoever comes in, we will hopefully bring them up. And yes. So I will without wasting much time, I will start with the Afzal Khan Sahib, and I will start with a simple question which I was supposed to ask from all other guests, and I forgot. And that is how did you become aware of this Let Kashmir Decide campaign, Afzal Khan?
Sorry, Shamas, can you ask the question again? Was it cutting out?
How did you become aware of Let Kashmir Decide campaign started by Claire Bidwell?
Yes. I think I met Claire at one of the party conferences where she was going around with having a tea idea. And at the time, I thought it's a brilliant idea. Very simple, very effective. Everybody can understand it and everybody can associate with it. So well done to you, Claire, taking this forward.
You.
Sadly, with the COVID-19, it's put a little bit of dent into this whole idea. But I think this idea has got a feet, is going to run and keep up with it. I just want to say thank you to you for this. And thank you again, Shamas. Yeah, pleasure. I don't want to speak too much. I've been listening throughout the first whole session as well. So I suppose the first point is thank you for this idea, because the technology is important. We are lucky enough to be able to utilize this, and how we are becoming globally connected up with this and putting the idea of Kashmir, the dispute of Kashmir, and the suffering of the Kashmiri people globally in this context with this technology. But I think at the same time, it sends a very clear message about the Kashmiri themselves. who for now almost 300 days have been in isolation. They don't have this luxury of this technology that we're using. Or throughout the maximum time, it's been no internet. And then whenever there has been internet, it has fundamentally been just the 2G. So you know that you can't do much. So there's a whole huge consequences of it, what is happening. On top of that, I suppose, is the COVID-19 and how that is having an impact and how people are actually suffering through this. So the economic aspect linked with the COVID-19. So there's a whole health issue as well. I mean, it's an area where I have picked up a number of questions in the parliament to see what is it the British government can do to help. We know in the Pakistan, Azad Kashmir side of things, there is some help going on, but actually in the occupied side of India, that is not going on. And there is a huge need on the medical side as well. So there's a huge economic impact that has been felt by the Kashmiris there. On top of that, you've got this whole COVID-19 impact as well. I mean, only yesterday I was speaking to some of the students how they were being even discriminated. In a sense, you can see how we are losing a whole generation of our young people, their future, as a result of what is going on. But those students who are from Kashmiri origin who have been abroad, again, how they've been sort of left behind, how they've been discriminated. So people are abandoned all over the world, where they're struggling to get back. Even their families are struggling to provide any financial help to them as well. So there's a whole discrimination area towards the student side, which I think should worry us all. And then just very quickly on the UN itself, look, many of the speakers have already talked about the limitation of the UN and what they should be doing. The Secretary General himself has spoken about the fury and the folly of the war itself. And yet we see daily violation of line of control, and yet the UN is silent. Some of the permanent members who have responsibility, they too remain silent. And I think these are the things which are not really acceptable if we want to see peace. So these violations need to stop. And we don't want to be in a position where I feel we are heading now in Kashmir. And that is what has happened with the Palestinian people. So their land is being stolen. They themselves are being made homeless. All this demographic changes which is being planned, which again, I think the world shouldn't remain silent. They need to be picked this up. And I feel personally at the heart of all this is this the rise of right-wing narrative that is taking place. And I often use the term axis of extremism with the leadership. You find this in a number of countries, and I think certainly the current BJP government in India certainly fits into that. And I find this very painful because I think India has a long history of pluralism. India has a long history of richness and diversity, and to celebrate these things. But sadly, in the last few years, you could argue that this current BJP government actually is taking India in a new direction, which has never been in history like that. And that you can see both in India itself, what is happening with such a large number of Muslims and other minorities. And then equally, you can see what they're doing in Kashmir, such a large concentration of military, and how that military are violating the human rights of individuals, civilians, women, young children, all that. And then on top of that, I think Lord Ahmed touched on this point. So if you look at the whole spectrum of different countries which are neighbors to India, instead of having this good neighborly relationship, what you're getting is problems. So I think Lord Nazir Ahmed went through almost every country idea that I think there is this serious point we need to understand. And all this actually links us to this Hindutva ideology which exists in the current government of India, which I think is doing a great disservice to India itself, India's image, and India's own solidarity in the community within their own country, and equally, as we all understand the importance of having good neighbors. So in the resulting in India actually being withheld. So I think there are a real issue. This is a week where we need to be bringing more awareness of human rights for the Kashmiri people. And I think doing things like this actually does help us. So I want you to, keep up this good work. In the parliament's perspective, I'll just say, can I just say one word on the parliament? Because there's a question you asked in the earlier session. And I think that is this, that what you have in the parliament is a very strong APPG on Kashmir, which is from cross-party, from people from all different parties joining in. So that strength, I think I see myself increasing, which I think is a positive point. The second is the debate point. The parliament itself has allocated time for a debate on Kashmir, this issue, particularly with Debbie Abraham, what impact she suffered from going to India and how she was deported back. So that time has been allocated. It's only due to COVID-19 that this debate was pulled. So soon as now we're going back, hopefully this will be lined up. So it will give us an opportunity to really highlight what exactly is taking place on ground for the suffering of the 70 plus years of Kashmiris. Once again, thank you very much, because I've been on this line for over an hour. I'll have to leave you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Keep up the good work.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Abdul Khan MP for Manchester Gorton. And I welcome Fahim Kiani and Rehana to the show, and Sardar Anwar, of course, and Asana Marthi. Asanawe Maritia. And welcome, Maritia. And can you tell us how you became aware of this Let Kashmir Decide campaign, and what is your role, and what you do as your work, and your involvement, how is linked with this?
Oh, well, I found out about the campaign because I was invited to it by a young Kashmiri Facebook friend of mine who I friended over a year ago, and he friended me on the basis of a reply where I was basically tapped in by another Kashmiri Facebook friend to respond to some comments on a post. And so he friended me based on that. It's like, oh wow, she seems to have a reasonable point of view. And he later invited me into the campaign. Now, the first Facebook friend who had tapped me into that, he and I have been friends for 2 years. And shortly after we became friends, he had called me up on a messenger call and had told me that I was one of the few people who was sympathetic to the situation in Kashmir, and he had drawn comparisons between Kashmir and Palestine, and he pleaded with me to assert what is happening there and to keep that in the minds of people from outside the region, because he was very frustrated at how little coverage it received. And so I agreed to do that, and I've been doing that for at least the past 2 years.
Okay. Okay, I'll come back to you about what you think of the situation and what you're doing where you are to raise the awareness. And let me bring Raja Fahim Kiani Saab, and his phone mic seems like yeah, you have muted your mic.
Yes, I can hear you, but I've just got the tea.
It's fine now. It's fine now. You got the tea. That's brilliant. And Fahim, how did you become part of this campaign? And what you think? What is the way forward? And where it should be heading to?
Thank you very much, Shams Suleiman. You've been in this struggle for last, I can say 20, 30, 40 years, been long, and you wrote lots of articles on this issue as well. I met with Claire on Indian Republic Day. We were holding a demonstration outside Indian High Commission. She came and she explained me about her campaign, Let Kashmir Decide. I said, I fully support this campaign, and we held another program in Dudley. And she was invited as a guest speaker. Since then, I'm involved in this campaign, Let Kashmir Decide. And she made a lot of arrangement to hold this event like in Muzaffarabad, in every country, but due to COVID-19, because everything has been postponed. and now we are doing a Zoom meeting at the moment. So as far as the Kashmir issue is concerned, you know that there are two countries in the world. There is
Okay,
a
I'll come back to you for that. Let me engage Sardar Anwar Sahab now, and then Rihanna, and then we will, obviously discuss a bit further the issue. सरदार अनवर साहब, आप कैसे इसमें एंगेज हुए, इन्वॉल्व हुए, आपको कैसे पता चला इस कैंपेन का?
Thank you very much, Shams sahab. Clary was on visit to Pakistan and we met in Islamabad, and we have a lot of discussion regarding the human rights violation in Kashmir, and we have also discussed the historical background of Jammu Kashmir state, and on this tea campaign we have a lot of discussion with her, and it's goes credit to Clary, and she has done a great job. And we are connected with all friends, also Karen in Canada. She also supported over Kashmir issue and the self-determination of Jammu Kashmir, people of Jammu Kashmir state.
Thank you very much, Sardar Anwar Sahab. And Rihanna, how did you become part of the campaign?
First of all, I would like to say Assalamu alaikum, and I would like to thank you and Claire for giving me the opportunity to actually be a part of this program. What it is that I met Claire on Women's Day this year in March, and I saw her like outside the 10 Downing Street, and I could see that she was very passionate, and I got talking to her, and then I found out about the campaign, and she gave me some further details, and I kept in touch with her, and we became friends, and then I became a part of this campaign, and I can see all the struggles and the team members. They're all actually trying to do their best to actually highlight the issue to the world, because we have still many people in this world who don't know about this Kashmir matter. So today we are actually holding this event, so people who really don't know, people who don't speak our language, they can understand like what's happening in Kashmir, and they can come forward and help us.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for your contribution so far. And now let's go to Asana. I am really sorry that I'm struggling.
Okay,
to
let me make something clear that Asenawe Maritia are my middle names, and if it's easier, you can call me by my first name of Laura.
Laura, that is easier for me. Thank you, Laura. So, Laura, where exactly are you based, and what you have done so far in relation to raising awareness about Kashmir situation?
Well, I was born and raised in Seattle, Washington State, and so I live just south of Seattle now. Right now, I'm in the D.C. area for a few days, and what I have been doing to raise awareness is I've been spending a lot of time on social media, practically like it's my job, and I have the time to do that because I'm a military retiree, and I understand that there have been people who find my military background a bit puzzling as to why I should care about this. But my oath of my commission oath and my enlistment oath had a very limited scope on defending the Constitution, and that includes the international agreements that we're bound to, like the Geneva Conventions. And India has committed egregious violations of Common Article 3 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, and Common Article 3 refers to conflicts not of an international nature. And I had been bringing that up on Twitter quite a bit, and also that is a premise that under UN Security Council Resolution 47, those conditions have to be modified to account for that, because under the provisions of that resolution, it would require that India assume control of all of Kashmir and that Pakistan unilaterally withdraw. And under the circumstances of the war crimes being committed and India's recent posturing regarding wanting to take back Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Kashmir, I would find that unacceptable. I don't think India would be acting in good faith if Pakistan were to literally withdraw, and that's why I've been banging the drum for months, even before joining the campaign, that there has to be UN peacekeepers replacing Indian forces before Pakistani forces could withdraw or before Chinese forces could withdraw. So that was an important thing. And also, in a lot of the surveillance of social media platforms, I find certain patterns of people who support occupation that I've also been spending a lot of time arguing against and trying to refute. And to that end, a few of our group members have been very good researchers to find sources that have refuted the Indian narrative that in favor of occupation, like in regards to the Pandit exodus, and also to a few other issues, especially concerning the timeline of the Pathan invasion and the timeline of accession, and who had control of what territory.
So
at that
obviously
time.
obviously history is always contested, and there are so many different views. And yeah, that is one of the challenges for people who are working to raise awareness about Kashmir. And let's go to Rihanna. Rihanna, how much did you know about Kashmir before you joined the campaign?
I actually knew a lot about Kashmir because we actually all like Pakistani and Kashmiris here, so we actually know it from a long time. Personally, I'm a law graduate and I'm looking forward to actually become a human rights lawyer. And on the other hand side, I have been going to every protest for Kashmir and Palestine, and actually have been with some other campaigns as well. So I did actually have an idea what has been going on, and this is how I met Claire as well. So in this campaign, my role is actually as a liaison officer. So I'm actually there trying to engage all Kashmiris and Pakistanis and people who actually really care for Kashmir, and I'm trying my best that even English people around us they can find out about this issue and I can get some further help. What I know is that what happening in India at the moment is really wrong, because as everybody knows, and I don't want to repeat myself, that from 72 years we actually know what has been going on. The concerning bit is that at the moment, with the domicile law, that's the main thing that I think we should be actually talking and worrying about, because if it's going to be implied, then you actually know that there's going to be no Kashmir in the future. So I think that we should be more working towards it, because whatever has happened,
Yeah,
it has happened.
but the world governments are saying that is an internal issue of India. Whatever constitutional changes they make, even Labour Party and the Tory Party and all these, they are saying that. And I'm sure Laura will know that that is literally the policy of USA government as well. So
I'm not so sure about that.
that these are internal issues.
Well,
no, they're not internal.
Yeah, let's finish Rihanna first, and then I'll come back to you, Rihanna.
The world can say whatever they want to say. Everybody knows the reality, and we all go by United Nations. We don't go by any country. If the United Nations has actually said they in the documentation, so that means that it's not actually a part of India or Pakistan. It is the international matter, and if they are going to keep quiet and something happens, like if a nuclear war breaks out, who is going to take responsibility? And at the moment, we can see that China is actually in occupied Indian Kashmir as well, which is a big threat to actually South Asia and to the world. So I think we all need to unite, and if we all don't unite now, things are going to go out of hand, and there is going to be a nuclear war, and before that there's going to be many other things happening. And I would like to also say that at the moment, India's position is not very, very, very good in South Asia. None of the neighbors like India, none of the neighbors actually want to stand by it. It is having a problem with each and every country. So India needs to be stopped. And if we don't stop India, it's going to continue, because India is trying to take over Nepal, is having a problem with Bangladesh, is having a problem with Pakistan, and even with China. And being actually one of the permanent members of United Nations. I think China and England actually can UK can play a vital role, and they can get this issue sorted out. And I would like to add on that this whole issue has this whole dispute has started because of Britain. So Britain has a huge responsibility. It doesn't matter whichever party is going to solve it, but it's the duty of the government or every citizen in UK to come forward for Kashmir, come forward for the peace of the world. Because if they are not going to put the act together now, there could be a nuclear war breaking out soon.
Thank you, Rihanna. And Laura, you were going to say something about the U.S. policy.
Well, I haven't heard anything regarding whether or not we consider it a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. But one of the things that I have found appalling is some of the rhetoric that's been adopted that seems very anti-Pakistani. For example, in a so-called pro-Kashmiri resolution that was done after August 5th, there was a lot of verbiage in it. It's House Resolution 745, and it was sponsored by Pramila Jayapal, who's a representative in an adjacent congressional district to mine. But a lot of the rhetoric seemed to be very similar to the stuff out of the Zionist playbook, like in the whereas clauses, references to a special relationship between India and the US. And the only context in which I have ever seen the term special relationship has been when the US refers to Israel. And that was the first red flag.
Oh, they refer to British as well. We have special relationship, isn't it?
Well, and then another red flag was this kind of dog whistle diss to Pakistan, referring to threat from external forces. But there is nothing in Pakistan's weapons inventory that would be a big enough gun to hold to India's head to compel India to violate the Geneva Conventions. That is not informed by anything
they always
Pakistan
blame
does.
everything they blame
and,
Pakistan because that sells.
And then that brings me to the third red flag is the phrasing of India having a right to self-defense. Well, there is no India to self-defend in Kashmir unless you are referring to the Indian people seeking domicile. And again, that would be considered a violation of Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which is the same article that also makes the Israeli settlements in the West Bank illegal, is the transfer of a civilian population to an area under military occupation.
Okay, let me bring Sardar Anwar Saab in now. Sardar Saab, what is your reading of the situation which is existing now in the Indian occupied side of Kashmir? Because this program is mainly about that, because the Let Kashmir Decide Solidarity party was born in reaction to what India did in the Kashmir Valley. So obviously the core focus is on that side. So how do you see that?
Thank you very much. First of all, we should read the mindset of the Modi. Modi is the product of RSS, who killed Mahatma Gandhi. They were involved in massacre in Gujarat. In this way, Modi is the fascist mindset. And second thing, now Kashmir is the biggest jail in the world since approximately ninth month. And now you see that all world community is became a silent spectator on Kashmir issue, on the genocide of Kashmir because of their economic interest, because they think that India is a big economy for them. And before, weapons were manufactured to fight wars. Now wars are manufactured to sell weapons. That is why India is a big market for the weapons manufacturing countries and other economic other world community which have their economic interest with India. And now you and all the world community knows that Kashmiri's human rights are violated there. Houses are burnt, business are stopped, schools and universities are stopped. And if through COVID-19, if the world is suffering couldn't face the lockdown of 1 month or 2 months, then Kashmiri people are facing the lockdown since more than 9 months. This is a human tragedy, and I think this is a time that Jammu Kashmir state, Jammu Kashmir dispute is not a bilateral dispute or a territorial dispute between India and Pakistan. It is a matter of Kashmiri nation. Second thing which I want to tell, that Jammu Kashmir state is geopolitically very important because it's among three nuclear power: China, India, Pakistan, and if I include the region of the Central Asia, then Jammu Kashmir state is a nucleus of half of the world population. In this way, I think the freedom of millions of Indian, Pakistani, and Chinese people is always connected with the freedom of Kashmiri people. And if Kashmiri people will get freedom, then Indian, Pakistani, and Chinese people will can get freedom from hunger, poverty, starvation, and terrorism. In this way, I think this is not a only national issue, it's also a regional issue, it's also an international issue, because it's also have a strong interest of international power. USA have their own interest in Kashmir issue, and Russia has their own interest. Out of the 7 nuclear power, 5 nuclear powers have directly or indirectly interest with the Kashmir issue. Geopolitically, it's very important region. In this way, I think that it's a need of our that we should convince the world population, world people, world journalists, human rights activists, and make this issue as a human issue, that human beings are being suffering since last many years.
Thank you, Sardar Anwar Saab from Dubai. And Sardar Anwar is a very senior leader of Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front in the Pakistani administrative side. And now I bring Raja Fahim Kiani, who is a leading campaigner in Britain for many years against the Indian occupation and atrocities. Raja Fahim Kiani Saab, I'm not sure which organization you are part of, so that's why I'm not mentioning organization, but you can tell us yourself how you see the situation, Fahim.
Thank you very much. When we are discussing about Kashmir issue, so we can't neglect Hindutva ideology in this current scenario, as Sardar Sahab mentioned. Now, Godse has become a hero of Modi regime. Now they're praising openly Godse, who's a killer of Mahatma Gandhi, and Mahatma Gandhi, who believed in non-violent movement when during the Britain colonial rule. So at the moment, I say the Hindutva ideology is not a threat for Kashmir; it's a threat for Pakistan and the whole South Asia region. And Narendra Modi has adopted the fascist policies, and Kashmir has been under siege since 5th August 2019. And Narendra Modi has adopted the policy of dark ages, when kings used to put cities under siege by cutting off their supplies for to make them bow down. And same like Narendra Modi wants the people of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir bow down in front of his fascist ideology and bow down his fascist ideology and his terms and condition, and give up their demand to right of self-determination. But in this all scenario, the people of Kashmir have proven that they will never compromise on their basic and fundamental right to self-determination. And you can see that how the indigenous uprising getting day by day popular within our youth and recently we've seen Indian army have killed dozens of freedom seekers in fake encounters, and they didn't hand over their bodies to their relatives, and they buried them in unmarked graves. And there was a report. They had a graveyard in Gulmarg, very remote in Gulmarg, and the locals they have opposed when the Indian army digging the graves on that area. The locals went to the Indian army, said who they are, and they didn't mention who these people are. So at the moment, 15,000 plus people have been arrested under the black laws. And the black laws, Armed Forces Special Power Act, has been challenged in European Parliament. It has been mentioned twice in the United Nations Human Rights Commission reports as well. So in this situation, I think this is the right time to expose the brutal face of the largest democracy of so-called largest democracy, India. So this campaign is, I think, so the Let Kashmir Decide is the right, timely campaign and the people of Kashmir are the core party of this dispute. I can say the Pakistan is the one of the core party as well, because when we see the two countries, when they go to international when go to the international power corridors, when they take this issue to international power corridors, one is Pakistan and one is India. When India goes to international power corridors, international forum, they say there is no Kashmir dispute and this Kashmir dispute must be resolved. On the other hand, Pakistan said there is a Kashmir dispute and this issue must be resolved. And you have seen the stated policy of current government, Imran Khan. When a journalist asked a question to Imran Khan in America when he was on the visit, and he said, "What do you think the future of Kashmir?" And he said, "Who am I?" He said, "Who am I to decide the future of Kashmir? The future of Kashmir is going to be decided by the people of Jammu and Kashmir." So this is the stated policy of Pakistan. And now one of Laura mentioned about India threatened to attack on Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Jammu and Kashmir. So we now realize the importance of Pakistani army. They are defending our liberated part of Jammu and Kashmir. So I would urge Pakistani government, you have to play a decisive role, because the way you've been dealing Kashmir policy, which was very disappointing for the people of Kashmir. The Kashmir issue was an international issue, and your rule made this is a bilateral issue going into the Shimla Accord. And after Shimla Accord, Indira Gandhi said he threw the resolution of UN on Kashmir in dustbin. So once again, the people of Kashmir opened the lid of the dustbin, which dustbin was mentioned by the Indira Gandhi through the popular uprising in 1990s. And the first lockdown was imposed in 1990s, and second lockdown was imposed on 5th August. In both lockdowns, the people of Kashmir showed their determination. They will never compromise on their basic and birthright right to self-determination. They will fight against illegal Indian occupation till last blood of blood.
Okay. Okay, that is Mr. Fahim Kiani, who was just speaking, and let's just see. Okay, okay. I was going to call Claire, but I think she's busy. So, Laura,
I want to comment. I forgot. Your Clay team is very effective. Rihanna is doing very good work, and Wakas and another as well. But I don't know many people.
Great.
But they are doing very great work. So
of course, yes,
it's got a very good team. Clay.
Great. And Laura, I mean, what you see as a way forward, like practically for the campaign, and if you have views in general about people, how they should be making their campaigns more effective.
Well, I think a lot of what's been helpful is being able to gather information to refute the Indian narrative, which they're citing to justify occupation. And one of the most stark outlines of that narrative was when former U.S. presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard was directly asked what she thought about the abrogation of Articles 370 and 35A. And she pretty much chapter and verse cited BJP talking points that, oh, well, it's better for women's rights and it's better for LGBT rights that they're all rolled up under India's constitution now because, because women in Kashmir weren't allowed to inherit property. Well, actually, that's really not true. She was bringing up stuff like that. And one of the things that, and it's also out of the Zionist playbook of this it's a neo-colonialist idea that in order to be granted self-determination, you have to be a model victim of colonialism. And when the U.S. gained its independence after we had a revolution to break off from British control, when we were under British occupation and we had established a separatist military force, I mean, that's really what it was. But nobody demanded that we meet these kind of standards back in 1776 when we declared independence. And none of the countries in Europe and none of the countries making this claim, and it's the same claim that goes against Palestine, is like, oh, well, it's better that Israel control that area because of LGBT protections or religious minority protections, when in fact, when these countries were established, when countries in Europe were established, when the United States of America declared independence, we did not meet this standard that we would be imposing on these on these emerging countries. So I think it's very, like I said, it's a very supremacist kind of argument, and it's one that I would use to refute, and I've used those kinds of refutations on social media myself, and for these pains I have been called a jihadi. I have been called Pakistani, and someone who recites Pakistani talking points. I find that a bit ironic, since I am a retired U.S. Army warrant officer. So, and then also this idea of casting any separatist movement by Muslims as Islamist, as though it were solely, as though self-determination was something. I mean, is there's no particular religious doctrine attached to the idea of being able to govern oneself or determine somebody else's future. And I also think that's also in relation to framing the issue with the Uyghurs in China, is that as a separatist movement, China has basically co-opted the Western way of framing it and dismissing the movement as Islamist, and then they make attacks on the Islamic religion. And so then the U.S. comes back and says, oh, and also Europe says, oh, well, this is a religiously motivated attack against the Uyghur population. And I would say to China, it's like, well, why are you co-opting Western framing? Because that has been how the West has been able to dismiss these things as secular governments, is by framing these movements by Muslims as based on this inscrutable religious doctrine. And that's just really not the case. And that's one thing that needs to be confronted in that issue, is that the separatist movement isn't an extremist kind of movement. It should not have those connotations. And then when I had looked on the State Department's list of terrorist groups, the U.S. statutory definition of terrorism specifies that civilian non-combatants have to be targeted. And one of the things that I found appalling was referring to the attack in Pulwama on February 14th of last year as a terrorist attack, when it was really an insurgent attack. And as far as rhetoric goes, I didn't find that very constructive. And on Tulsi Gabbard's own campaign website, she had actually had a petition condemning Pakistan for supporting terrorism, when again, the targets were armed combatants. So it didn't even meet the statutory definition. And part of the problem with getting outside support for the kind of movement.
Is the case? Why you think that is the case, that in America, these kind of definitions or labels are given to Kashmiri activists?
I think it's part, quite frankly, I think it's an unfortunate artifact of framing any kind of grievances from former colonial possessions that are predominantly Muslim, to framing those grievances as doctrinally based, as a way like, oh, well, we're secular powers, so because this is a religiously informed grievance, we're just going to ignore it because we can't relate to it. And I think that that's been very disingenuous, and it's not a policy I personally support. I oppose what I call gunboat mercantilism, where the military has been used, like it has with Britain in the past, as an arm of private corporate resource procurement, and that's been a complaint by a U.S. military service member, Smedley Butler, in his book War is a Racket, that as a military service member, it's an insult to my service to be used for anything but defense, to be used as an arm of corporate resource procurement. And it was really blatant during the British Raj, where the British East India Company actually administered parts of India. And it's something that I personally oppose, and that's something that I would like to, as a political progressive, bring forward too, as part of that whole framework of this is not the kind of world that should exist.
Definitely. And let's see what Claire has to say now, because we have about 3-4 minutes left yet to this show. And thank you very much, everybody, for your contributions. Claire, last word from you for this session. And your mic is mute. You did it. It says your mic is not connected. Can you hear me, Claire?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
grateful,
fine,
thanks
perfect
again.
now. Thank you. Go on.
Okay, grateful, thanks again. I'm very honoured for all the people that are here, all the expertise and all the knowledge. And I mean, for me, to let Kashmir decide is the way forward. We've got to find our way through to getting the referendum for Kashmir, I think. And all of us working together and uniting all the knowledge and the skills that we have, I think could be key, could really be key. So thank you. Thank you to everybody.
Okay, anybody else has something burning to say before we end it?
Yes, I want to add something that now in present situation, Yasin Malik, Chairman Jammu Kashmir Liberation, who is the sentiment of representative of Kashmiri movement, his life is under threat, and he is in Tahar jail. And I think on this occasion, I would like to ask world community that it's need of all that Amnesty International should take step and try to release him and give him the opportunity for his deteriorating health.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sardar Anwar Saab from
Shams, may I say
and I
something?
hope that you have a branch of and I hope you have a branch of Let Kashmir Decide in Dubai as well, or in Middle East. But who wants to say something?
May I say something on the back of what Sardar's just said?
Oh, of course.
It's Claire.
Yes.
Can I say something?
Please.
Yeah, I just wanted to back up what Sardar Anwar said. I mean, again, with COVID-19 around, Yasin Malik, the threat to his life is real. And I think once we have come past our campaign for the Solidarity event, I think we do want an international campaign to free Yasin Malik. So I'm grateful for Sardar Anwar to bringing that up. And that's something we're going to be looking into seriously. Thank you.
Well, and that provision was included in our petition, Claire. About freeing political prisoners like that.
Absolutely.
We should mention Asian Darabi. Asian Darabi, she's been her husband, Dr.
Obviously, there are thousands of people, but some out
Shabir Shah is as well, who spent 25 years, now is again. So we need to make a more wider campaign, and obviously Yasin Malik is a leader as well. So all of this, Shams, I need to comment on Laura. Laura highlighted very important point about what kind of false narrative India is presenting at international level after abrogating Article 370 and 35A. They say whatever the laws they have introduced in India, they can't extend to Indian occupied Jammu Kashmir. Like they make it more attractive when they discuss issue LGBT. When they discuss, because of 370, we can't extend these kind of Indian laws. But we are trying to say India shouldn't discuss the sub notes. We are discussing the headings, while through the 370, because they have a special relation with India. Even we don't accept such kind of a session as well, because this we consider this is a fake document, and this is whole region is a disputed region, and this whole region this future should be decided according to the United Nations resolutions. In this sense, when he abrogated the Article 317.35a, this is an open contravention to the UN Resolution 122, 121, 122, and 126, and which prohibit India to take any unilateral action to change the disputed nature of Jammu and Kashmir. So India is trying to deceive international community to bring such kind of sub notes when he discussed the application of Article.
Well,
Same
of
line,
course, all these are
same line the Canadian Prime
all these
Minister
are the
says,
companion
I
issues.
want to implement Canadian rules on America. So it doesn't mean whatever the Canadian pass their rules for their country, that for them. Whatever the America pass their rules, rules for them. So we consider India has got no right to extend their laws in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
Yeah, of course, no power. None of the three controllers have that right, but they are
Can I
violating it at different
can I can
degrees,
I can,
and
can
campaigns
I
have to
can I
make that
add one
clear.
thing?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think we run out of time now. But if it's too quickly, if it's not respond to anybody, or just you want to make some important
Oh,
point, go on.
I want to tell that both India and Pakistan have occupied the Jammu and Kashmir state, and the different laws in Gilgit Baltistan and different laws in Muzaffarabad, and
I know.
India have different laws
Yes,
in Jammu and different laws in Ladakh. And this is
yes,
also a
yes.
complex. They make a complex issue. In this way, we appeal that they put pressure on both India and Pakistan to withdraw their
Yes,
armies and let the
yes,
Kashmiri
yes,
people to decide their
certainly.
future.
And like I said, the
What
focus,
I'm
our
commenting,
focus
Shama
today.
Saab, the Pakistan Prime Minister, ex-Prime Minister, has stated in his speech they're ready to demilitarize simultaneously. Mia Nawaz Sharif. This is the policy of Pakistan, but India is
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
denial mode.
I think
We
they
need
need
to
to
put pressure on
they
India
need
to
to
bring
make that
India in denial
official
mode.
policy,
Pakistan is ready to resolve the
and
issue.
then nobody will talk about
What kind
Pakistan.
of
Yeah,
official?
yeah. I think they need to make that as official policy. So thank you very much. And I know there are so many contesting issues, and I know a lot of people want to talk about so many other things. But of course, this today, and I know there are a lot of people who will be on here on in the comments as well, saying a lot of things. But the thing is, this focus of 2 days, 3 hours, is on Let Kashmir Decide campaign. And this campaign was born out of a situation created by BJP Hindutva government in the Kashmir, which is occupied by India. And focus of this campaign, the core focus, remains to stop India from what they are doing to Kashmiris right now, in terms of laws, in terms of physical violence, in terms of killings, in terms of lockdowns and communication repression as well. So that is why I am trying to keep the focus on that. So now, thank you very much. Hopefully, we will have more opportunities to discuss these things in detail. Anwar Saab and Thanks Saab.
Thank
And
you.
Mama, welcome.
Thank you.
I have
thank
to.
you very much,
Being a
Rehan.
Kashmiri is my brother.
And I
Thank
am
you very much.
He's got a right to whatever say, as long as the people believe on plebiscite.
yes.
And thanks.
Here is solidarity, and thank you very much.
Bye
And
bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
hopefully
you very much.
we
Thank you very
will
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye,
and
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
good luck
I
with the
wake up.
campaign.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we already have Tanveer Saab, and from what is happening here? What is happening here? Not very nice, technically. Yes, you are off now, Laura, and now Sardar Anwar Saab, you are off as well. and I will bring Tanveer Ahmed when he's ready. And I don't have any other guests for the next hour yet. We are expecting some more people soon, and I have Tanveer, so I welcome Tanveer. Welcome to the studio, Tanveer. You are not in lobby anymore, so thank you very much for joining us. And the flag is showing. What flag is that? Flag, Solidarity flag. We will have some issues with connection from Dadal because it's weak. The connectivity is weak there.
I think Shams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Claire. Yeah. So, Claire, now it's only you. So you can tell us, while other people join, you can tell us a bit more about the campaign, and particularly what you want people to do in future, how they can support, how they can become part of it, how it can be made more effective.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now for this Solidarity event this afternoon, what we need people to do is to look for the petition that we've got to the United Nations, which sets out really clearly our strategies for what we want to happen and for solutions. We also, if you're joining us with a cup of tea, we want people to upload photographs of themselves with their tea, either to Twitter or to our group. And we're going to be presenting all the evidence of our journey along the way, plus any comments on this JKTV show, any comments people can make. All this evidence will be going to the United Nations. We have the Facebook group on Facebook if people can find us.
I have Tanveer again in the lobby, so let me see if we can get his contribution first, because we don't know how long he can stay with us. He's already disconnected. All right, okay, he's there. Tanveer, before you disconnect, can you tell us about how you became aware of Let Kashmir Decide campaign, and what you think of the situation, how to move forward? Tanveer, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, I can. Sorry, when I'm using the earphones, I'm not able. When I'm using the earphones, I'm not able to hear you.
Okay, you carry on, and just tell us what you want to say.
If you can hear me loud and clear, I'll continue talking. Yeah?
I can. Go on.
Yeah.
Yes, Tanveer.
Right. Okay. I think you asked me something about. Okay. I think you asked me something about this initiative and how I got to learn about it, etc. So yes, well, I have seen it initially in passing when traveling or traversing through social media, and then a mutual friend of ours in Bradford, he introduced me to Claire, and I have been paying some attention to her work from time to time, and I frankly was very astounded at her persistence and her energy, if you like. And I think something must have hit her dramatically from a humanitarian point of view to have embarked on such a novel and such an engaging initiative, where she's doing a lot of the work that our diaspora that's been in England for a good clear 50, 60 years has really been unable to do. And I think we should all thank her from the deepest parts of our hearts. And I'm sure this is something which has strong fundamentals, and it also has room for many different opinions. I mean, of course, my opinion is quite different, in some respects, dramatically different from many of the other people on this panel. So that would be my beginning, and I suppose that's an answer to your question. Apart from that, please either ask me the next question or allow me to give my 5-minute speech that I've prepared earlier on
because
today.
there is the issue of sound, and so I'm not sure whether you can hear me.
I can
But
hear you very
if
clearly.
you can,
I can hear you.
that's great.
I can hear
That's
you
great.
very clearly. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just going to turn the fan off so that hopefully you can hear me even
Okay.
clearer.
Meanwhile, I welcome Amjad Hussain and Sahaf Kashmiri Saab. Amjad Hussain and Sahaf Kashmiri Saab, welcome to the show. And I am talking to Tanveer at the moment because he is linked up from Dadial, Azad Kashmir, and signal is not very reliable. So I'm giving him opportunity to say whatever he wants to say in next 5 minutes and then go. You can stay, Tanveer. I'm just joking, but
Excellent.
please carry on.
Thank you very much, Shamsab, and thank you, Claire, as well. I'm really okay. There's certain things that I want to say which are a little bit different from what other people have been saying. I think first of all, when you lay out whatever suggestion that one wants to make, I think you've got to look at the two opposites. For example, I see democracy and what I describe as a high standard of governance as a conflict resolution mechanism, and this is what I've been practicing myself on the ground here for the past 15 years. So essentially, it's about converting a conflict economy. I mean, the economy in Jammu and Kashmir revolves around a conflict industry, and converting that into a peace economy, and looking for ideas, looking for practical suggestions which will convert this into a peace economy is what we should all concentrate on, in my opinion. So we're also looking about converting from closed spaces on earth to open spaces. We're looking at converting from slavery to freedom. We're looking at converting from destruction to creativity. And importantly, we're also trying to move away from backdoor diplomacy to local people's reference. This is the terminology that I use. And literally moving away from a morbid, deathly environment to one full of life, vitality, and culture, which is what we aspire to.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, we lost Tanveer because of the connectivity, and I really apologize for that. And let's bring Saf Kashmiri Saab in. Saf Kashmiri, how did you become part of this campaign, and what is your role, and how you see the campaign going forward?
Sorry,
Saf?
thank you so much thank you. Can you hear me now?
I can, yes, certainly.
Yeah, thank you so much, Claire, and the host of the program. I really apologize. I didn't hear your question because there was some distortion. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, basically, how did you become aware of the Let Kashmir Decide campaign, and in your view, how we can move forward from here, be more effective?
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, I'm a human rights activist. I work for the human rights, and I was introduced by one of my friend to Claire, and he actually introduced me. And he said, because obviously we are launching this campaign, and and we would like if you're going to join us as well in this campaign. I said that's fine, no problem, because this campaign is for our motherland. So definitely, whoever gonna raise the voice for the voiceless nation. So definitely, we're gonna be second of them anyway. Yeah, whoever is at the moment. Yeah. The second question is the campaign is very good. To be honest with you, I'm happy because I was trying to connect today, but obviously I had some internet problem, so I was connecting and disconnecting. Yeah, but luckily now I'm connected with you guys, and I'm very happy because obviously I have seen your guest today on the the Facebook page. Yeah, and I was listening to them as well. This is very good opportunity. Be honest with you, to bring different ideologies on one platform. Even if they are pro-Kashmiri, if they are pro-Pakistani, or even my suggestion is if they are pro-Indians, yeah. So let's bring them as well on the table, yeah. Let's discuss about this issue. This is because this issue belongs to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. This is not belong to the India or not belong to Pakistan. This issue belongs to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and we, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, have to decide our own future. So I'm very happy if you're going to bring all like communities, even their pundits, or even they are Hindus or Sikh or Christian, whoever lives in Jammu Kashmir. We need to bring on table. We need to discuss with them. Even they are pro Indians as well. We need to discuss with them as well. Even if they're pro Pakistani, we need to discuss with them. Pro Kashmiri, lot of organizations in UK and Azad Kashmir and Indian occupied Kashmir. Especially like Liberation Front and in Azad Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir National Awami Party, National Student Federation, Liberation Front. In UK, you can see different organizations work for the Kashmir cause. So we need to bring on one table. This is my personal opinion and suggestion is we need to bring everyone on the table. We need to discuss whatever is my decision or someone's decision. That's going to be after when we're going to get the right for the plebiscite. That's my point of view.
Okay, thank you, Saab. And Tanveer is back. So obviously Tanveer has a kind of alternative view here today. I think he wants to present. And welcome Tanveer back. And I have nothing to do with your disconnectivity. Please don't blame me. and say what you were going to say, please.
No. Right. Okay. Well, it just so happens that this time around 7 to 8 p.m. is the sort of peak time or the most vulnerable time to use the internet. But having said that, yes. So, I mean, what I was trying to say is that I don't think that we need to be naive about this problem. For example, it is very obvious that for countries around the world and the geopolitical world order, it runs on obviously mutual economic interests, and it doesn't necessarily or absolutely run on sympathy. And trying to gain sympathy for human rights, etc., will gain you some mileage in terms of improving your lobby, if that's what you're looking for. But given that we live in the most contested region in the world, I mean, I would say it's the most precious territory in the world, and trying to get the world's sympathy in order to resolve a problem which has very clearly 5 major stakeholders apart from the 6th. And the 6th stakeholder is us, the people here. So you've got India, Pakistan, you've got Britain, America, and China. So that's something to bear in mind. And with reference to that reality, what I would like to say is that we the people, if we want to move towards a solution, we need to be able to create initiatives or solutions that attracts the world and which the world finds meaningful. For example, water is what the whole issue is about, and that water issue where India and Pakistan is competing over, it tends to have been clouded by religious sentiments or religious identity. And this is something which the British very carefully cultivated during the time that they were directly ruling here. So the Indians and Pakistanis need obviously water solutions, because if you look at how India and Pakistan have managed water, despite the fact that they've had people, military manning the water channels throughout this territory. And also, incidentally, India also happens to have the highest rainfall in the world. So there's plenty of water running into India and there's plenty of water running into Pakistan. But if you look at how both countries have been managing that water, I think it's very clear. It is very clear that it's quite atrocious. So by having heavy military in Jammu and Kashmir is creating obviously a very big problem for the inhabitants here, but it's also doing no clear good for the people of India and Pakistan. So that's something that needs to be considered. And instead of scaring the world about impending nuclear war if two countries go to war, I mean, they're not going to do that. Yeah, I mean, the repercussions for nuclear war, if either India or Pakistan were to take that step, would be something which would mean destruction for both countries, right? And maybe for other areas. So instead of giving that canard, I think we should look towards water management and other aspects of governance. For example, I talk about water management, I talk about waste management, I talk about soil management, and I also talk about a constitution which is strictly referenced by the people here. Now, if you look at the constitutional structure on the Indian side, and you look at the constitutional structure on the Pakistani side, what you will find is that there is a very clear absence of local reference. I mean, even the Brits, I mean, if you go all the way back to the beginning of Gulab Singh's time, and we're talking around the late 1840s, I mean, the Brits, even at that time, used to send delegations to the Valley of Kashmir, and they used to try and find out or ascertain what sort of problems the local people were facing. Right. And even at that time, obviously, the real problems of the people were not able to surface. And when we look at things in 2020, we haven't really moved forward. I mean, for example, going to the Indian side is obviously a big hurdle for most civil aspects of civil society anywhere in the world, unless, of course, there are people that are in tune with the Indian narrative. And coming on this side is also very difficult, because we saw with the MP's delegation that came in February to Muzaffarabad, and they also visited Kotli. But I can tell you from personal experience that meeting that delegation was also impossible, right? So things from the late 1840s and 2020 haven't really changed. This is something that I'm trying to explain. And, 150 years ago, we were trying to gain sympathy from the colonial power or from other outside powers or regional powers. And today in 2020, our modus operandi is exactly the same. We're trying to gain sympathy. And, the world does not run on sympathy. That's something that we need to understand. And also, I talk about a neutral territory. I mean, if you look at Switzerland, Switzerland had very similar problems to Jammu and Kashmir about 500 years ago and prior to that. Now, the Swiss people, through their own will, and purely through their own will, they decided not to get engaged and not to get involved in any of their neighbors' problems. Now, many of the people who have participated in this program today, I mean, I'm not saying all of them, but certainly some of them are pandering to a particular lobby. Now, that lobby could be in the shape of Pakistan plus China at times, and maybe even a little helping hand behind the scenes by Britain and America. And on the other side, you have India, and you have a very strong relationship between America and India. You have a very strong relationship between Britain and India. And you also have a very interesting relationship between China and India, one which has a lot of economic stakes. So that means that, China will only go to a certain extent to sympathize with Pakistan. It will not go to the extent where China's own interests
Okay,
will
Tanvir,
be
I
hurt.
have to,
So
Tanvir, I have to
therefore,
stop you
it
here.
is self-destructive when we pander to any particular lobby. It's the same problem on the other side, where a lot of our Hindu brethren, yes. Sorry, I heard you interject there, so therefore I stopped.
Yeah, I have to stop you here, but please stay connected, because I think your connection is relatively stable now, and we will have your views. We will need your
I can hear
views
you
later. But I think here I want to bring in Claire. Claire, obviously there are most of the panel people were obviously on kind of
So everything's gone quiet. I can hear you though.
Different narrative. Tanvir has slightly, I think he has kind of give the picture which was missing. Basically, it's not that people were not aware of it, but it was missing. So, and you say, your main theme is clear that there has to be a positive solution. So, what in your view is the positive solution, Claire? Because obviously you are the creator of this
Well, I
campaign.
think,
That is very. I'm sure you will
yeah,
have something in your vision.
yeah.
What do you think is the positive solution?
Well, the negative side first basically is all the unity, all the different opinions, all the different versions means that people are separating on into their own solutions, their own beliefs. And we need to listen to every voice, every opinion, every voice, absolutely. But then there needs to be, so for my mind, instead of having opinion of, oh, this is the Pakistan lobby and this is this lobby and this is this lobby, it's all about Kashmiris. And you should recognize that you all have these different ways of this lobby or this view, but somehow, uniting on the fact that you want plebiscite, regardless of whether you're then going to vote for independence or to go with Pakistan or to go with India. So it's the solutions for me are supporting every ideology. Everybody has their own beliefs about this, supporting every ideology, but bringing them together. And at the moment, whether any of us like it or not, what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir is above, it transcends all opinions, all narratives. That is just outright human rights abuse. Tanvi is right. There's the sympathy element of this is happening for humanity, and a lot of people, I don't know why they seem hardened to it or they don't take it on. So the solutions, again, it's picking bits out of what everybody's said, I think. So Paul Bristow was saying there about moving forward with regards of let Kashmir decide as a human right, as a basic human right. Let Kashmir decide, and it removes everything. It removes all those antagonisms. And I guess it's seeing the different comments on the screen in terms of, well, this is from this view and this is from that view and this is from that view. And I want to somehow for people to accept all the different views and that they're all part of it, because in some ways it's allowed the conflict to go on for as long as it had. Everybody's too busy putting down other people's opinions or views or perspectives, and it's somehow finding that ingredient that recognizes all these Kashmiris are bound by blood, they're bound by that desire for freedom. And if we could somehow find that unity, bring it all together, and build that towards the right for self-determination, if we let Kashmir decide, so many of these elements disappear. But again, I recognize the challenge we have here is against a world order, tapping into what lots of people have said. We've got a big challenge here, a huge challenge, but I do believe the people of the world, if they want to make a difference, can come together and make that difference. And everybody is doing their own little bit in their own way, but I'd like to see unity.
Yeah, and I just tell to the viewers that Tanvir Ahmed is basically a British Kashmiri. He came to this country a very young age, but then left about 13 years ago. he also went on a humanitarian
15.
I think mission, and then he did not come back, because and he is there for 13 years in the Pakistani administered side, and he is looking at things from
15,
very
15
very
years.
bottom up. And so obviously his 13 years research work is inside of Azad Kashmir. So obviously he is looking at things from very close. And we will try give Tanveer chance later on to explain further. But before that, I think it's Shah Kashmiri Saab's turn to give his views that how we can be more effective. And obviously you said that in your previous clip, or in your previous contribution, that we all need to come together. But in Britain particularly, how we can be more effective, Saaf.
Yeah, thank you. The first
And
salam to
sorry,
Tanveer
and
Bhai.
sorry to interrupt, but I think it's important to tell people that Afsha is trying to connect, but for some reason she can't. I can see her name, but no connection. And yeah, so please, if you are trying, keep trying. Hopefully, we'll get connected. And yes, go on, Saaf Kashmiri Saaf.
Thank you. Actually, the main thing is we live in UK. We are here in UK, and the people from Jammu and Kashmir who lives in the UK, actually, this is our responsibility to bring everyone on one platform, even if they are pro-Kashmiri, even if they are pro-Pakistani, or even if they are from pro-Indians. Some are here from the Indian-occupied Kashmir, but obviously they are not pro-Indians. But some are pundits or the different community. They are pro-Indians, but we need to bring on one platform as well, because this is our fundamental right to discuss our future. Because this is not very easy, because there's a three superpowers are behind you: Pakistan, India, and China. They all three trying to actually, they are actually fighting in the Jammu and Kashmir, because the brother Tanveer explains the main thing is water resources as well. And there are so many things like borders and everything, because obviously they have to look after their own lands as well because of this Jammu and Kashmir. But who is sacrificing? We, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, are sacrificing at the moment, especially the people of Indian occupied Kashmir. They are dying every single day. Because I'm originally from Indian occupied Kashmir, because I'm from the divided family. My father is from Srinagar, my mother from Azad Kashmir. So I know the both sides. I have my old family members there. My grandparents are still there. So I know the problems there, what's going on every single day there. There are more than 18,000 youngsters are in prison at the moment after 5th of August. So how many women been raped by Indian forces? How many children been killed now? Every single day they burn houses, everything. So we need to discuss this issue on a very serious notes, especially in UK. We need to bring every single like diaspora, or every single community, every single the people who are belong to any other organization, any like any group, any lobby. We need to bring together. We need to discuss. We need to be move forward together. I know it's very hard, because everyone, it's very hard, I know. And Tanveer Bhai is smiling because it's very hard to bring in everyone on one single platform. But we have to try for this one, because this is that's the only.
Your sound reaches to him after about 50 seconds. So not necessarily smiling at what you're saying now. Probably you said few minutes. Go on, Saf.
Yeah, so that's why I was explaining that we need to bring every
No,
single
no, I
person.
can listen to him.
Yeah, thank you. Because I appreciate. Let me explain. I appreciate Tanveer Bhai. I never spoke with him before, but be honest with you, I know his work. I know where he's from, what he done, especially when he was arrested in Muzaffarabad. So I know, because I lived on the same place where he was arrested. Yeah. So we used to do the protest there as well. So I know, because the problem is you cannot raise your voice. Be honest with you, like a humans. You have to raise your voice like one lobby. If you are with any lobby, yeah, then you're gonna be happy in India and Pakistan side, or even not China, but India and Pakistan and Kashmir. But in the UK, you don't have any restrictions. This is actually democracy here. You have all your rights here. You can raise your voice. I can request to all single individuals who are raising voice for the people of Kashmir, like Jammu Kashmir, or the people who are doing any with lobby, and they need to come together on one platform. This is my request to everyone, and this is best opportunity. If we're gonna come together, that's the right time to need to come together. Because if you're not coming together now, if we can't discuss at the moment, so might be we gonna lose a lot of things here at the moment. So this is the right time. So we need to come out and raise our voice for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, for the solidarity and all, not only for the Jammu, not only for the Valley. We need to discuss everything: Jammu, Kashmir, Gilgit, Baltistan, Ladakh, everything. We need to become together for all parts of Jammu Kashmir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Saf Kashmiri. And Amjad gets connected, then disconnects. Amjad as well. So I'm sorry. And about Afshan, the message comes that she needs to connect her mic and video, audio and video, before she can be joined in. So maybe she's not allowing the system to use her mic and video. So maybe she needs to get that message clear. Okay, so Tanveer, obviously, I stop you because I think if one person goes on for too long, it's not fair on the viewers. So that is why, and I wanted to connect you now. But let's go to Claire. Yes, Claire. So so obviously, I think the main challenge in future is that how, like Saaf said, oh, at the moment it's like I think we are used to, and I understand it's where we're coming from. We are used to only focus on one idea or one ideology which we support, and that's it. Everything, like it is obviously in politics it happens. But I think we are now getting opportunities to have interaction with people of different viewpoints, and because of social media and before, geographically, obviously it's very difficult to come from one side to other. So social media, I think a lot of people from different regions are talking to each other. So I think awareness is also increasing about other regions, rather than stereotyped understandings of which were fed by the controllers. So things are changing. But I think the important point Saf made is that in Britain, there is a stronger or greater possibility to bring people of different views on one platform. And I think that would be interesting if have so far, have you managed to bring or link up with people of different views to bring onto this platform, Claire?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, hopefully, I think you can see it throughout this show and the people here with the different views. There are many active groups in the UK as well as across the world. But I mean, some of the watching people this morning get ready for the event. There are many already tweeting on Twitter. There's people sort of making their placards outside their houses. There's big support. I think as well what Sahaf said there about, there is the opportunity here to link with peace groups and other organizations as well, not just the Kashmiri diaspora. So we can go first. But yes, everybody, regardless of their belief or view, I think if we make it about humanity, and then that removes a lot of the different ideologies below it. It's a little bit how we've got the cross-party representation in Parliament from, the Conservatives, from the Tories, SNP and Labour, all coming together because this is about humanity and about a human rights crisis, and pulling out of what different people said. Tanveer's research that he's done over years, and as Sahaf said there, that ability, the freedom of voice, is not as granted so much over there. So even bringing it here, we can unite all that. We've not had social media before as a weapon. So why can't we, it's taken 70 years to get here. India are moving at a very fast rate, or the Indian government, with a domicile law, and we've got to go fast. And the only way we can make a difference is to unite, is to come together for humanity and push forward. I mean, interestingly, the Indian viewpoint, I was in dialogue. They're very difficult on the whole to engage with. They usually just call you names and you don't get very far. But I have been dialoguing with an Indian supporter, but very democratically, putting across one another's views, and that you can learn so much from that, and one another can learn so much from that. So we're both trying to persuade one another what's right, and come into those. So Sahaf has, for me, has said a lot of important uniting things there, recognizing basically the talents and the research and everything that everybody has done, that is recognizing that is not right and is not just about this situation, and let Kashmir Decide solves it all. It solves it all. And once Kashmiris get their decision, it's not for me to say, I support all ideologies. I've got great respect for every ideology. But at the same time, I don't promote one ideology, because for me, it's about unity and how we can unite everybody, regardless of your view.
Thank you, Claire. And Tanveer, can you hear me?
He'll probably hear you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, I can, loud and clear.
Okay, good. Let's try to put you.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
And another question, yeah. Okay, so Tanveer,
no, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah. So, what is your advice to the campaign, or what you will suggest that to become more effective and inclusive? What you suggest from your experience, of course?
Okay. Right. Right. Okay. I think our people have certain inherent weaknesses which have prevented us from progressing over the past so many decades. And I think one of those problems is that we love to talk at each other. We have not developed the skill and knack of talking to each other. We have a habit, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, especially people in Azad Jammu and Kashmir, have a very strong habit of talking at each other. This is something that we need to overcome. That's one thing that should be clear. And because this mission or this initiative is all about bridging narratives, yeah, you've got to be able to bridge narratives, even extreme poles. You've got to get them together onto some sort of common understanding. And if I may say so, a lot of the countries in Europe and the West in general do have this knack of developing consensus despite people being very, very averse to each other. Whereas we as Muslims, I mean, I'm generalizing a bit here, but I find that we have a very big problem in this respect. We find it very hard to even think about the fundamentals of consensus. So with reference to Claire Bidwell's initiative, I think the most important thing is to ensure that it's sustainable, yeah? This must be sustainable at all costs. It's better to do a little bit regularly than to try and do a lot of big things in a short space of time. And I think longevity and persistence and consistency will generate that sustainability. And I think over time, she also, I have this impression that a lot of the people that she's met are mostly people from either the Pakistani controlled side of Jammu and Kashmir, or she's met Pakistanis. And it's quite obvious that many Indians, especially hardline Indians, would be very allergic to such an initiative. So I think one of the challenges will be that how do you get to talk reasonably in a democratic frame of mind with those people who, for example, are very much, on the Indian accession side, for example, or how do you talk to those people who were Hindus and Sikhs who were forced to migrate from AJK in 1947? How do you talk to the people of Gilgit-Baltistan who have always felt marginalized? They've felt marginalized by the Pakistani government. They've felt marginalized by the people of the Valley of Kashmir. They've felt marginalized by the people of AJK. So, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to move towards bridging narratives. And I think, in a nutshell, sustainability is very important for this particular initiative, and reaching out to all those various other narratives that exist within the territory of Jammu and Kashmir. These are key components, I think.
Mm. Yeah, Claire, your mic is mute. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know that Claire definitely have a lot of members from the Indian side of Kashmir, particularly from Valley, and
Okay.
the first person she
Okay.
met, who became the link of initiating this, was a
Yes. Yes.
buddy from Kashmir Valley. So I think she has from both sides. But how about other suggestions, Claire? And because we have about 15 minutes to finish this whole transmission.
Yeah, I mean, what would be good, Shams? I know you said we've got 10 minutes. I think we've got Javad's message and the last tune as well, so we can stop our talking in a couple of minutes. To develop on from what Tanvir said, I mean, I've got, as similar to what Laura from USA said earlier, I mean, I get accused of being in all camps, so which is interesting. But it's trying to bring together all those different camps, and I mean, that's what I'm here for, and that's what I want to do. My job is not to tell anybody how to do anything, and I think it became accidental, this process. I just wanted to have a solidarity event. I just wanted to show Kashmir that the world cared. And, with regard to that, it was, because of the Indian government's atrocities, it was Javad from Kotli Azad that was the one that we connected. It was his idea to start the Facebook group, and we had this thing of the voice on the inside that had reached the voice on the outside. So it's always trying to keep that communication there, but build it and grow it. And so for me, the Indian government, I do think, are moving at a very fast rate, and that concerns me, because if they keep doing that, then all these narratives, they're not going to matter, they're not going to care, because India are going to have Kashmir, and Kashmiris will never get Kashmir. So there's a kind of but the pacing is right. My next moves, my next ideas, or our team's next ideas, are within countries, are to build together networks, close networks at ground root levels. Again, it's all people's different ideas that come together to this. This wasn't my idea, but somebody suggested what we now do is we use strong Kashmiri voices from the diaspora, regardless of their ideology, but for humanity in regions. So in the UK, in different regions, and then we build it in towns so that we can put pressure on councils and then on our governments. And if we've got that same model going on across Europe, in towns and countries in Europe, then we're pressuring our governments. The governments, then the UN, and that we can get UN functional. We can get our governments functional, and
Okay. So this is mainly diaspora initiative, and it is from here. Obviously, things look slightly different than from inside. So yeah, and obviously that debate goes on, and it should do, and obviously there is nothing wrong with it. Different narratives always contest in any society. There is no one narrative. It's contestations, and that continues. Obviously, like Tanveer said, if we talk to each other, that maybe makes the contestation a bit more productive. So yeah, definitely, there's a lot to learn from everybody for everybody. And thank you very much, Tanveer, because we are just coming to end of the show, and but I'm sure we will do many more shows, and we will discuss things in detail, and particularly your experiences and observations in the Pakistani administered Kashmir. And obviously, you have produced already a lot of data on that. So yes, thank you very much for joining us today. And I can see Sardar Anwar Saab in lobby, and but I think he's there to listen, because I don't know whether he can not watch on Facebook in Dubai. So yeah, thank you very much. And Claire, we will, I think, I will give you to conclude the whole transmission, and then I am not sure if Talat is around to play the video. So you better conclude, and then I will ring Talat if he did not play it soon the program finishes.
Oh, well, I mean, I think all's been said. Shams, thank you for your job. I know there was some technical hitches there. You did really well with them, and thank you so much. I appreciate that. Grateful thanks to everybody that's taken part. Our aims were to stand in solidarity, drink tea with the world around Kashmir, raise awareness, and I think we've done that. So I think everybody here that's contributed can feel really proud. And, to Kashmiris everywhere and those suffering in Indian-occupied Kashmir right now, the world's thinking of you. We're all doing our best, what we can, and we'll just build on this now and go forward. So grateful thanks to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the watching this show and for all your comments. A lot of people have commented, and I'm sorry because it is not very feasible or possible. I use all the comments because there are too many, and in a program where there are multiple guests, it's a bit tricky. But thank you very much. I have shown some of them which were very relevant to what we were talking about, and all the best, Claire. And that is all we had for this today's special transmission on our special streaming on JK TV. And thank you very much for all the support from Talat, despite some hiccup. But I think we managed to at least carry it through. So thank you very much, and goodbye for now.
I am Jawad Kyum from Azad Kashmir. Today is the 300th day of illegal occupation and lockdown of Kashmir by the Indian government. We all are united in solidarity with Kashmir. Our aim is to raise awareness all walks of life with different views on Kashmir under the referendum agenda for the right to let Kashmir decide their own future. Today in this event we have done our best to do that. Thanks to all the friends and colleagues who supported us in this campaign. Inshallah, this struggle will continue, and we people from all over the world will become a team for Kashmir and for humanity. We will continue to raise our voice for the oppressed brothers and sisters, inshallah, through tea will bring friendship and unity. God bless everyone and encourage us to fulfill this care duty for freedom. Welcome and thank you.
Our voices cry, Azadi, Azadi. Our voices cry, Azadi, Azadi. Tea for Kashmir, one last year. Tea for Kashmir, one last year. Hands held tight with friends feels right. Eyes full of desire, dreams of a pure film so far. Our voices cry, 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 Azadi, Azadi. Our voices cry, Azadi, Azadi. My Kashmir, my Kashmir, my Kashmir, my Kashmir. Tea for Kashmir, one last year. Prayers of peace for fight to see. Within ourselves we will about to try. Our voices cry, Azadi, Azadi. Smiles to clear to sell your fear. Stand by my side, let Kashmir decide.
करियो मंद जिगरस जाय चमनो माय मशानी करियो मंद जिगरस जाय चमनो माय मशानी भूलाऊं कैसे मनाज़िर तेरी बहारों के मेरे वतन 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 तेरी जन्नत में आएंगे एक दिन सितम शार से तुझको छुड़ाएंगे एक दिन शगुफ्तगी गुले नस्तरन नहीं भूले शगुफ्तगी गुले नस्तरन नहीं भूले हसीन फूल की वो अंजुमन नहीं भूले हसीन फूल की वो अंजुमन नहीं भूले तेरी बहारों में फिर मुस्कुराएंगे एक दिन मेरे वतन तेरी जन्नत में आएंगे एक दिन करियो मंज़िल दे हक के लिए कर रहे हैं तैयारी, जहां दे हक के लिए कर रहे हैं तैयारी, दिखाएंगे सब दुश्मन को शान कहारी, दिखाएंगे सब दुश्मन को शान कहारी, तेरी फिजाओं में कलियां खिलाएंगे एक दिन, तेरे वतन तेरी जन्नत में आएंगे एक दिन, करियो मंज जिगरा जाय चमनो माय मशानी.
JKTV, the voice of the voiceless. Like it and click on following and click on see first, then you will get all the new notifications and updates.